She smirked, leaned back, and fired off the line like it was her grand finale. Stop acting like we're married. You don't control me. So stop pretending you matter that much. Her friends roared with laughter, cheering her on like she'd just won the argument of the year. She thought it was her mic drop, her victory lap. But a few days later, when she came home, bags in hand, heels clicking like she owned the place, her key didn't fit. The lock had already learned a new story. Her stage, her spotlight, her place in my house gone. Here's the thing, Reddit. Have you ever had someone move in and slowly turn your life into their performance? You're paying for the lights, the set, the whole production, and all you are is the audience. That was me. My girlfriend thought living rent-free gave her the crown. But that night, she said something that flipped a switch in me.
I didn't yell.
I didn't argue. I just smiled, stayed quiet, and started planning. And by the time she came back from her little trip, my house didn't look the way she left it. See, when you're with someone long enough, you keep lists. Not of the good things, but of the things you swallow just to stay sane. Stella's list? It had been filling up for months.
So, here's some context.
I'm Isaac, 27, a graphic designer. I work from home, and my idea of a wild night is messing around with fonts at 2 in the morning or trying to beat my own record at parallel parking. I like calm, predictable, organized. Not because I'm boring, because that's how I breathe. And then came Stella.
25.
We met at a barbecue. She was loud, magnetic, the kind of person who knew how to pull every eye in the room without breaking a sweat. And yeah, I'll admit it, I was hooked. Next to my quiet life, she was like a firework. I thought maybe she'd pull me out of my shell. But 6 months into her moving in, it wasn't fireworks anymore. It was a circus I never bought tickets for. I paid the mortgage, the bills, even the Wi-Fi she drained every night FaceTiming her 3 best friends, Tiffany, Brittany, and the other one. I never caught her name, so I just called her Chardonnay. They sat around like they were auditioning for a sitcom, and Stella fed on their laughter like oxygen. She was the type to buy a decorative sign for the front door that said the Wilsons, like she'd already claimed the deed. Never mind her name wasn't Wilson. My name was the only one on the paperwork. But in her head, just living there made her co-owner. That night I was making dinner. Nothing special, just pasta with sauce. Stove bubbling, spoon in hand, zoning out like I always do when I cook. Then Stella strutted in, dressed like she was on her way to a Vegas photo shoot instead of sitting down to eat. Phone glued to her ear, voice louder than the TV. Oh my God, yes, I'm so in. A bachelorette weekend is exactly what I need right now, she shouted. I kept stirring, because if I paused every time she said something dramatic, we'd starve. She hung up, spun around with a grin, and declared, Good news. The girls and I are heading out for Tiffany's bachelorette trip. 4 whole days of glitter, sashes, and girl bonding. We leave tomorrow. That was it. No warm-up. No, hey babe, is that okay with you? Just an announcement, like I was her assistant logging her schedule. I tried to play along. Okay, I said. Sounds fun. Where's the party at? You'd think I'd asked her to solve quantum physics. She froze, tilted her head, and looked at me like I'd just confessed to kicking puppies. And then, right on cue, the harpies strutted into my kitchen. No knocking, no hesitation, like they owned part of my mortgage. I put the spoon down, looked straight at them, and said flatly, Door must be broken. Last I checked, people knock before walking into my house. Tiffany blinked, her fake smile cracking. But before she could answer, Stella jumped in, making me the punchline. Can you believe him? He wants to know where I'm going. I didn't let it slide. Correction, I said, leaning on the counter. I'm not asking permission. I'm asking a question. In the house I pay for. Big difference. Tiffany gave me a look like she'd smelled spoiled milk. And that was all Stella needed. Hands on her hips, smirk locked in place, she fired her shot. Stop acting like we're married. You don't control me. So stop pretending you matter that much. Her friends cackled like someone had handed them free tickets to Cabo. Stella stood proud, glowing like she'd just given a TED Talk on independence. But here's the part no one saw coming. I wasn't embarrassed. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even surprised. This was just Stella, entitled, delusional, convinced she was the star of the show. So I didn't fight back. I didn't defend myself. I just smiled. The kind of smile you give when you're already 3 moves ahead. You're right, I said, calm as ever. My mistake. It threw her. Just for a second. Because most guys would have blown up. But I didn't need to. She'd already given me the perfect out. I wiped the sauce off the counter, leaned back, and smiled for real this time. Not married.
No say. Got it.
She thought she'd won.
Cute.
But the truth was, the game had already ended. And I was about to collect the prize. The next morning, Stella and the Harpies stormed out like they were walking a cheap Vegas runway. 4 days of bachelorette bonding, as she called it. But I knew better. It was just code for screaming through hotel hallways and leaving glitter in places janitors would be cursing for years. 4 days of bachelorette bonding, as Stella called it. But let's be honest, that was just code for screaming down hotel hallways and leaving glitter in places janitors would curse until retirement. I stood at the window, watched them strut off like they were auditioning for some Vegas runway. The second they turned the corner, something shifted. The neighborhood quieter. The air itself felt lighter, like the block finally exhaled. And that was my cue. Step 1. Find the right ally. Lucky for me, she lived next door. Mrs. Gibson. 64, retired principal, widow, sharp as a tack. She wasn't just a neighbor, she was the unofficial surveillance system of our street. Amazon packages, late-night visitors, whose dog pooped where, she logged it all. Most people saw a sweet old lady who liked roses.
Me?
I knew better. She was a hawk in sneakers. So, I grabbed a slice of lemon cake, her weakness, and walked over. She was already waiting on her porch, iced tea in hand, like she'd been expecting me. One look, and she smirked. Well, she said, eyes narrowing. If it isn't the man with the patience of a saint and the girlfriend of a hurricane. What's the news? I laughed. Not far off. Stella's gone. 4 days. Bachelorette trip. But before she left, she dropped a little gem in my kitchen, in front of her friends. Stop acting like we're married. You don't control me, so stop pretending you matter that much. Mrs. Gibson set her glass down slow, both hands free for the drama. She said that? In your house?
Yep.
Right in my kitchen. Full audience. Her eyebrows shot up. My lord. Bold. Bold and stupid. Exactly. I leaned in. So here's the deal. When she comes back, she doesn't live here anymore. Locks changed. Place redecorated. And when she inevitably melts down on my porch, that's where you come in. Her eyes lit up like Christmas morning. Oh, Isaac, I've been waiting for this day. What's my role? I grinned. Simple. Act surprised. Tell her, oh, Isaac told me the good news, you're not married, so he celebrated his freedom. Then he redecorated and adopted a dog. Big Street Bernard. Name still pending. Mrs. Gibson slapped her knee and laughed so hard I thought she might spill her tea. That's cruel. I love it. She's going to lose her mind. That's the idea, I said. She gave me the playbook. I'm just running with it. She leaned forward conspiratorial. Do I get to ad-lib? Of course. Just hit the big beats. Freedom. Redecorating the dog. The rest? Your show. Her grin widened. Oh, I'll sell it. Don't you worry. By the time I walked back home, the stage was set. Stella thought she'd put me in my place. What she didn't realize was that she'd handed me the perfect script to end things my way. I called it Operation Bachelor Pad Resurrection. Phase 1. Recruit Gibson.
Done.
Phase 2. Purge the glitter. And Phase 2 started the second I stepped back inside. For 6 long months, this house hadn't felt like mine. It had been Stella's showroom, beige on beige, smothered in throw pillows, glittery accents, and half-empty bottles of serums worth more than my utility bill.
But now?
Now it was demolition day. I grabbed boxes, tape, and a fat black marker. If I was going to pack her things, I was going to do it with style. First box, everyday clothes. Neatly stacked, not because I cared, but because I wanted her to feel creeped out later at how organized it all looked. Second box, fancy clothes for fancy outings I was never invited to. Dresses she bought in case someone whisked her to a rooftop bar. Spoiler alert, I never did. Didn't stop her from buying 5 of the same dress. Third box, magic sparkly dresses. Every one of them shedding glitter, like a chemical spill. I'll be vacuuming sparkles until the day I die. Shoes? 37 pairs of pain. I dumped them in a box and labeled it podiatrist's nightmare. Then came the makeup mountain. Palettes, sprays, brushes, creams. Half of it looked like it belonged in a science lab. I packed it all under the label. Face paint and mystery goo. The bathroom? Even worse. Shampoos, curling irons, hair masks, 12 different bottles because apparently every strand of hair had its own needs. All boxed. All labeled. I left her toothbrush. That felt symbolic. Here's the thing. I didn't just toss her stuff. I documented everything. Every box photographed. Time-stamped. If she accused me later, I had receipts, literally. By the time I finished, the living room looked less like a home and more like a shipping warehouse. Neatly stacked towers of brown boxes. The only thing missing was a forklift. Heavy lifting time. I opened an app, hired 2 movers. Within the hour, a couple of guys in their 20s showed up, looking less than thrilled. One of them raised an eyebrow. What's all this? Ex-girlfriend's contribution to clutter, I said. Destination, storage unit 42. 1 month rental. They smirked.
Got it.
Seen worse. We loaded the truck, drove across town. I signed the papers, paid for 1 month up front, and locked her life neatly inside a storage unit. And here's the thing, it wasn't spiteful. It wasn't cruel. It was generous. Most guys would have tossed her stuff on the curb and let the rain finish the job. But me? I gave her climate-controlled storage and 30 days to claim it. Honestly, she should have thanked me. I even snapped photos of the locked unit, the paperwork, the receipt. Time-stamped. Ironclad. Driving back, I felt lighter. For the first time in months, I could walk across my living room without dodging stilettos or bumping into bowls of fake fruit. The shelves weren't buried under knockoff decor. No more live, laugh, love signs staring me down like bad punchlines. My house was empty, but for once it was honest. A blank canvas, waiting for me. I stood there in the middle of the room, hands on my hips, and I smiled. This wasn't just cleaning. This was reclamation. Every box I packed, every item I cleared, it was one less reminder that I'd been living like a guest in my own home. I could already picture her reaction when she came back. She'd walk in, expecting her beige couch, her wall art, her purse spot on the counter. Instead, she'd find a different world. A world without her in it. Operation Bachelor Pad Resurrection. It wasn't just revenge. It was balance. Stella wanted to be the star?
Fine.
She could shine at her parents' house. My place was no longer her stage. Phase 2 was done. Now came Phase 3. Rebuild. First order of business, security. I checked the rules. No lease, no rent, no tenant rights. I was clear. So, I swapped out the deadbolt. The shiny click of that new lock? Pure poetry. Stella's key was now nothing more than a useless piece of metal. She could rattle it all she wanted, it would never open my door again. Next came the Wi-Fi. If you really want to cut someone entitled to the core, hit their digital oxygen supply. I logged in, renamed the network. Get your own Wi-Fi. The password? Not married one. That petty. Was it childish? Absolutely. But pettiness is an art, and I was painting a masterpiece. Then the real rebuild began. The beige rug, rolled up and gone within the hour. Some college kid picked it up for beer money. In its place, a bold astroturf rug designed like a football field.
Green. Loud. Mine.
The couch? That sterile white thing Stella worshipped like a museum piece. Sold. I replaced it with a black leather recliner sofa. 16 cup holders.
16.
It wasn't a couch, it was a throne system. I sat down, reclined all the way back, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like a king. The coffee table?
Out.
In came a vintage pinball machine I scored off Craigslist. Did it work? Not really. But it lit up, it clinked, it was loud. And it had soul. More than I could say for her minimalist slab of nothing. And the walls, Stella's beloved macrame, those knotted fishing nets she called art. Down they went, replaced with a framed poster of a grizzly bear mid-lunge, jaws around a salmon.
Power.
Nature. Simplicity. Every time I looked at it, I felt like I'd leveled up. Piece by piece, the house shifted. From her sterile showroom, back into my fortress.
But I knew it still needed something.
Something alive. Something loyal. That's when I thought of the animal shelter. At first, I figured I'd just look around, get used to the idea. But fate doesn't wait. Within an hour, I was driving home with a St. Bernard riding shotgun. His papers sat on the seat, his giant head rested on my lap, and his drool had already soaked through my jeans. I named him Gus. The second we walked through the door, he owned the place, sniffed the football rug, tested the recliner, and collapsed on it like it had been waiting for him all along. Minutes later, he was out cold, snoring like a chainsaw, paws twitching mid-dream. Truth is, I'd wanted a dog for years. A big one. Something with presence. Not a yappy purse dog that barks at dust. But Stella? She always shut it down. Dogs are disgusting, she'd say. They drool. They smell. They ruin furniture. The irony? She was describing herself. So yeah, Gus may have been a puppy. But when your puppy is a St. Bernard the size of a coffee table, you've pretty much skipped the small stage. Exactly the kind of presence I always wanted. By Saturday evening, the house was unrecognizable. What used to look like a beige waiting room now looked like a place someone actually lived in.
More importantly, it
Looked like a place I wanted to live in. It hit me then. This wasn't just a makeover. It was a reset. Every pillow removed, every glitter dress boxed up, every cup holder installed. It all screamed the same message. This is my house, my rules, my life. Sunday was coming fast. I knew Stella would roll up expecting the same setup she left behind, ready to toss her shoes on the floor and complain about how minimalist chic made her feel grounded. Instead, she was going to find Gus, a football rug, a glowing pinball machine, and a front door that no longer opened for her. I pictured the scene. Her face, pressed to the glass, eyes wide, staring at Gus sprawled across the sofa. She'd lose it. And the best part, Gibson was ready with her lines, rehearsed, and waiting for the cue. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt completely at home. No beige prison, no harpies echoing through the walls. Just me, my fortress, and a dog who thought I hung the moon. Phase 3 complete.
now.
All that was left was the finale. Stella thought she'd get the last laugh with her little speech about not being
Married. Cute.
The real comedy was about to start the second she tried her useless key in my brand new lock, and I couldn't wait to watch it happen. Sunday night, right around 9 p.m., my phone buzzed with a doorbell cam notification.
Showtime.
There she was, Stella, back from her glitter parade, dragging her suitcase up the walkway like she was returning from a tour.
She
Looked tanned, smug, humming to herself. She had no clue her key was now about as useful as a paperclip. She slid it into the lock, twisted, and nothing.
tried.
Again, harder. The deadbolt didn't budge. She frowned, pulled it out, tried again. Like maybe she forgot how doors work. Still nothing. From my recliner, Gus sprawled across half the couch.
I
Watched the feed on my phone with a soda in one hand and the biggest grin on my face. She let out this loud sigh, the kind people do when their Starbucks order is wrong, and started knocking. Not a polite knock either, full palm slaps. I ignored it. Then came the
calls.
My phone lit up with her name buzzing on the pinball machine where I'd left it. First call declined.
Second.
Call declined. Third, fourth. Fifth declined. Each time it buzzed, Gus lifted his head, gave me a side eye, then flopped back down with a grunt. Even he was
bored.
The knocking turned into pounding. She yelled my name through the door, her voice getting higher with every attempt. Isaac, open the door. My key isn't working. What did you do? Still nothing. From me. I took another sip and adjusted the recliner. After about 5 minutes of her meltdown, the porch light next door clicked on. Showtime for Act 2. Mrs. Gibson stepped out in her house coat, holding a watering can like it was part of the script. Oh, Stella dear, that you, she called, all warm and fake surprised. Stella spun toward her like a drowning person spotting a lifeguard. Mrs. Gibson, thank God. I can't get in. My key isn't working. Is Isaac home?
I see the lights on.
Mrs. Gibson tilted her head, playing the role perfectly. Oh, he's home, all right. Had himself the most wonderful weekend. A real transformation, you might say.
Stella blinked.
Transformation? What are you talking about? Well, he told me the good news. Gibson leaned on her railing, her voice dripping with sweet concern. He said, you're not married, and he doesn't get a say in what you do. So he decided to celebrate his freedom. Stella's mouth dropped. He what? Redecorated the whole place, Gibson said, nodding proudly. It's a man's house now, very rugged. And the best part, he got himself a dog. A big, beautiful Saint Bernard named Gus. Said he wanted loyalty in the house. Right on cue, Gus let out a deep rumbling bark from inside, then plopped his head back on the couch. Stella froze like she'd just seen a ghost. She ran to the window, cupping her hands against the glass.
From my
spot on the sofa, I watched her face pressed against the glass like a kid outside a candy store. Except what she saw was Gus sprawled out like royalty. The football field rug, the glow of the pinball machine, and me lounging like a king in my recliner. Her expression went from confusion to horror in 2 seconds flat. Her jaw literally dropped. Then came the texts. My phone lit up with all caps novels. What is this? Where is my stuff? Open
the door right now.
You can't do this to me. I let her rant for a bit, then finally responded with the single most satisfying message I've ever written. You said, stop acting like we're married. This is my house. Your things are at Storageway, Unit 42, Code 1234. You have 1 month. Good luck. Then I blocked her. I watched on the feed as she read it, her face twisting like she'd just bitten into a lemon. She looked from her phone to the window, back to her phone, then let out this scream. Pure, unfiltered rage. She hurled her phone onto the lawn, stomped around, and started yelling into the night about how ungrateful and toxic I was. Meanwhile, I cracked open another soda and scratched Gus behind the ears. She paced the porch, ranting to herself, banged on the door a few more times, then finally pulled out her second phone and called Tiffany. 10 minutes later, Tiffany's car pulled up. Stella climbed in, still gesturing wildly, still yelling, and they drove off. The whole thing was caught on camera. Every second of it, saved to the cloud, immortalized. I leaned back, set my phone down, and looked over at Gus. He lifted his giant head, drooled on the armrest, and sighed. Yeah, buddy, I said. That's what you get. And that's exactly what she got. Stella wanted independence?
Fine.
She got it, delivered in cardboard boxes, stacked under fluorescent lights at Unit 42. She wanted me to stop acting like we were married?
Done.
For the first time in 2 years, I finally felt in control. And it felt damn good. The morning after her meltdown, I already knew where she'd go next. Stella was never the type to sit quietly and reflect. No, she'd take it straight to her favorite stage, social media. And right on cue, by noon, my feed was flooded. Sad black and white selfies, soft acoustic music playing over captions about toxic men and finding your worth. Paragraphs that read like TED Talks for bitter breakups. She even threw in those vague little quotes. The kind people repost when they want to look wise. Never settle for a man who fears a strong woman's independence. Or, better to cry in your own car than be silenced in someone else's house. It was a performance, exactly what I expected. And her audience? They ate it up. Our mutual friends filled the comments with heart emojis and "you go, girl." I scrolled through it all, with Gus's head in my lap, grinning. Because I knew something Stella always forgot. Receipts always beat drama. For 2 days, I let her play victim. 48 hours of painting me as the bitter boyfriend who couldn't handle her free spirit. Tiffany and Brittany reposted her rants with their own little digs. Men who pay bills think they own you. Chardonnay jumped in too, trying to sound deep. A woman doesn't owe you gratitude for letting her exist in your space. Cute, except it wasn't her space. I had the mortgage to prove it. By day 3, I was bored. Gus and I had better things to do than watch a knockoff influencer campaign cut and pasted from Pinterest. So I ended it. I opened my socials, switched the privacy to mutual friends only, and dropped a 3-photo album. Photo 1, the living room before. Beige couch, beige rug, beige art, looked like IKEA had given up halfway. Caption, before. Photo 2, the living room now. Recliner sofa with 16 cup holders, football rug, glowing pinball machine. Gus sprawled across the couch like he owned it. Caption, after. Photo 3, a selfie. Me and Gus. His tongue hanging out, me grinning like a man free at last. Caption, redecorated based on my new relationship status. Was told I'm not married and don't get a say, so I embraced my freedom. Meet Gus, my loyal roommate. That was it. No rants. No insults. Just pictures and one line. And it was a nuclear bomb. Within minutes, my notifications lit up. Mutuals who'd been cheering Stella on suddenly weren't so sure anymore. The comments rolled in fast. Wait, she really said that in your house? Dude, Gus is adorable. Upgrade of the year. Some even deleted their old comments on her posts. Others started side-eyeing her stories with, "There's 2 sides to every story." Stella's narrative collapsed overnight. Because it's hard to play the victim when the so-called villain is just posting selfies with a giant street Bernard. She went silent for a day. Then the cracks showed. Her posts turned bitter. Suddenly, it wasn't about empowerment anymore. It was betrayal. Some men are pathetic enough to weaponize pets against you. Imagine being so small you throw someone's things out while they're gone. But this time, her audience wasn't buying it. By the end of the week, she stopped posting altogether. That should have been the end. But Stella? She wasn't built to let things go. When the spotlight faded online, she reached for a different stage, the law. I came home one afternoon to find a letter taped to my door. A demand letter from some local lawyer, dripping with dramatic legal jargon. According to them, I had wrongfully withheld Stella's property, denied her rightful access to the residence, and caused financial harm by rendering her effectively homeless. They demanded I let her back in immediately, or else. I didn't panic. I called my lawyer, handed him everything, receipts, timestamps, the storage unit code, proof she'd lived here rent-free for 6 months. He drafted a reply so polite it bordered on savage. Attach my mortgage statement. My name only. Utility bills. My name only. The deed to the house. My name only. Then a copy of the storage unit receipt, paid in full, with photos of her things stacked neatly inside. And the closing paragraph? Chef's kiss. Since your client is asserting financial damages, please clarify whether she intends to reimburse Mr. Wilson for the 6 months of rent, utilities, and groceries she consumed while living in his home without legal or financial contribution. I laughed so hard I nearly cried. It was like watching someone swing a bat and hit themselves square in the face. Days went by. Silence. A week later, my lawyer called. The other side had folded. Case unwinnable. Pressing further would only embarrass her. That's when it sank in. The game wasn't just over. I had won completely. Stella had tried everything. Social media, victimhood, legal threats. And every move backfired. Because she forgot the golden rule. When you live in someone else's house on someone else's dime while treating them like an accessory, you don't get to claim ownership when the lights finally go out. By the time the dust settled, the house was quiet again. Peaceful.
Mine.
No more harpies stomping through the kitchen. No beige decor making the house feel like a dentist's waiting room. No lectures about how dogs were disgusting. Just me, Gus, and a recliner that felt like a throne. I'd look over at Gus some nights, sprawled out, drooling on the sofa, snoring so loud the cup holders rattled, and I couldn't help but smirk. Stella used to mock me for wanting a dog. Said they drooled, smelled, ruined furniture. And now here was Gus, doing all of the above, and I had never been happier. Freedom isn't always glamorous. Sometimes it looks like a St. Bernard hogging your couch and a Wi-Fi password that reads "not married LOL." But for me, that was perfect. Meanwhile, Stella, she was somewhere else. Probably still trying to explain to her parents how her grand speech about independence ended with her unpacking bags in her childhood bedroom. Word traveled fast. First, she stayed at Tiffany's. That lasted less than a week. Apparently, Tiffany didn't appreciate Stella acting like a guest of honor, while never pitching in for rent or groceries. Then Brittany gave her a spot, but that fizzled in days. Turns out, the harpies were good for group selfies, not long-term housing. So back home, she went, 3 hours away, in the very house she used to roll her eyes at, pretending she'd chosen to reflect. Translation: she had nowhere else to go. Meanwhile, my life was the calmest it had been in years. The football rug looked glorious. The recliner was molded to my shape. The pinball machine still didn't work, but it glowed like a nightlight and made for a great conversation starter. And Gus? Gus was thriving. Growing fast, taking up more space than me on the couch, drooling on everything, and being loyal in every way Stella never was. I thought that was the end, until one Saturday at the dog park. Gus was trying to fit 3 tennis balls in his mouth when I heard someone clear their throat. I turned, and there she was, Chardonnay, the third harpy. Except now, she didn't look smug. She looked nervous. Rehearsed. "Hey, Isaac," she said softly. I nodded. "Chardonnay." She winced. "That's not actually my name." "Yeah, well," I shrugged. "You never introduced yourself properly, so that's what stuck." Half a smile. Then a sigh. "Look, I just wanted to apologize. About that night. We were out of line. Stella was leading the show, and we just went along." I shrugged.
She said what she said.
I just believed her. Chardonnay nodded. "I know. She called me last week, actually, complaining about how everything was your fault. Said you ruined her life." I laughed. Ruined her life? I boxed up her glitter dresses and gave her a storage code. That's not ruining someone's life. That's giving them a clean slate. "She doesn't see it that way," Chardonnay admitted. "She thinks you blindsided her." "Funny," I said, tossing a ball for Gus. "She thought I didn't get a say in anything. Now she doesn't get a say either. Fair trade." Chardonnay didn't argue. She just patted Gus's head and said, "Honestly, it looks like you're doing fine." Then she walked off. And she was right. I was more than fine. The house was peaceful. Every receipt, every photo of the boxes, every clip from the doorbell cam was tucked away in case Stella ever tried to stir trouble again. But she didn't. She was too busy blaming the world for her own mess. Most nights, I'd lean back in that recliner, Gus snoring beside me like a freight train, and look around. No beige prison. No fake aesthetic. No harpies echoing down the hallway. Just a man, his dog, and a living room that finally felt like home. And that's when it hit me. Revenge doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes the best move is the simplest one. Take people at their word. Stella told me I wasn't her husband. Told me I didn't get a say. So I stopped acting like I did. She got exactly what she claimed she wanted: freedom. Now she had no say in my life. And I had no say in hers. Balance restored. The pinball machine still doesn't work, but Gus thinks the blinking lights are fascinating. And honestly, between his loyalty, his slobbery grin, and his complete lack of drama, I'd say I finally found the perfect roommate. So yeah, Stella said I wasn't her partner, wasn't her equal, wasn't her husband. She was right.